What happens when food prices rise? Well, when they get to a certain point, people take it to the streets. They revolt, civil unrest. These things have happened so many times before. Now, in the United States, they've got a special card, food stamps, that they can utilize so that they don't end up in the breadlines. Over 40 million people are on SNAP, and that allows them to utilize taxpayer funds in order to keep their life going. The food is literally allowing them to subsist. And now we've seen people going to the food banks in record numbers. This is accelerating. But guess what? Based on what I'm seeing, that's just one piece of the puzzle and is not going to let up anytime soon. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. I want to show you what's happening today, beginning with the food, and then I'm going to connect it in with what's happening out there and show you all kinds of facts. No rain in Spain blamed for olive oil drought. My goodness. Don't get a shortage on the olive oil. We need that. That's key. Love, 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 love the olive oil. That's just one place. That's Spain. Check this out. Drought may leave flour prices elevated into 2024. You can see this. The U.S. wheat marketing year begins. Moisture or the severe lack thereof is front and center for crop watchers and stakeholders all along the wheat and the flour supply chains. Two of the three largest wheat classes grown in the United States face moisture challenges that may limit yields and production in 2023. So you know what's going to happen. Prices are going to rise, and that is for you, the individual out there, and people that are eating things that are trying to be cheap. They're trying to have their budget in mind. They're trying to have those cheap products, and they're not eating the lobster, and they're not eating all the fancy foods. They're just having the basics, and it's becoming too expensive. China's frigid weather sparks concern about fruit crop damage. Apple futures jump 8%, temperatures turn colder. This is just one example, but here it is. And you can see that it's affecting Europe, it's affecting Asia, it's affecting the United States as well. Argentina's economy stagnated as inflation surged past 100%. And this is really the point here, okay? So we've got food inflation, but in general, in places around the world, we're experiencing extremely high levels of inflation. That means prices, as I'm showing you here, prices that have gone up considerably, okay? So when do those prices go down? Well, you tell me, because I don't see them going down. Generally the way it works. Inflation rate is the measurement of year-over-year growth. So let's just say Argentina, 100% year-over-year growth, and then the next year it was somehow 0%. Okay? It's still doubled the previous year, so it's not as if you're just going to suddenly be, okay, well, the inflation rate's at 0%. No, it's adding up on top, okay? So that is kind of the details of what we're seeing right here as it relates to the inflationary factors. But I want to talk about the economy, okay? Because this is going to be one thing. Like if the inflation is strong, but also the economy is super strong, well, then maybe they can balance out. But we're seeing a lot of the data coming through, and it's not so promising. Tax refunds are likely to be disappointing this year. According to the IRS, the average refund check so far is down 11% from last year. And they can see this because it's the data is incoming, and it's showing people they don't have what they did before. A lot of those tax refunds, there was all these additional things that they could add on top. They were getting better returns. Not happening this time around. So what does that mean? Well, if people were going to go out there and splurge, they were going to go buy a new TV, a new phone, and all that, they're not going to be able to do that this time around. What about manufacturing? Still in a serious issue. Look at this, month after month after month. Almost basically from the second quarter of 2022 all the way through here. So for a year, the Dallas Fed manufacturing index down, showing in the negative. That's not a good sign. You could see it here. This is something that would, I think, in my opinion, it is worrisome, because we want manufacturing, we want jobs, we want growth. We don't want stagnation. We don't want to see stagflation either. And then, the data's there if you want to see it. I just wanted to pull that up for you. Manufacturing and just general business activity is not strong. That's a fact. And we can see this. shown you in other videos on Twitter and all these different things. First Republic lost $100 billion in deposits in banking panic. Bank says it will cut headcount by as much as 25%, slash executive pay as it restructures its balance sheet. So we're seeing these numbers come in everywhere. The bank crisis is still going on today. And at the end of this video, I'm going to highlight what exactly is happening with this banking crisis and why it can actually just happen again tomorrow, happen again next week. All of that. If you haven't seen that video, stick with me into the end of this one and I'll link to that, okay? But understand that there's like so many different parts of a crisis happening all at the same time. So we've never had this before historically, and that's why it is a big concern. Central banks are leading a revolt against the US dollar and shifting to gold at a record pace. So we can see that the purchases here, I did a video just recently about gold and you can see it for yourself, but certainly what's happening is multi-factor. Look, because there's the sanctions in place, there's a strong US dollar in place, there's a bunch of different things just economically going on, as well as the East versus West division has clearly happened, and that is in itself a big challenge. It shows us that something is really going on. There's a rumble underneath all of what we see that's, hey, it's all fine and dandy. Brookfield defaults on $161 million of office property debt. I brought this up in another video, just trying to highlight that a lot is happening. Ernst & Young to cut 3,000 US jobs after shelving bid to break up the firm. Global corporate defaults are at the highest since 2020. Public pessimism on the economy hits a new high. It all depends, right? We can look at this data and it just shows us the same kind of thing. New report says business travel isn't going back to normal ever, and I do believe that's the case. Why do they need to do when a lot of that was very wasteful? They would go out, they would be whining and dining. Now they can get to the point. They could do a Zoom meeting and just make it happen, okay? A lot of this could be done through virtual means, and people are more comfortable with that. And so business travel is going to decline, no question. That means the airlines are going to lose money. That means tourism is going to lose money as a result. So a lot of these venues where people would generally be hanging out, maybe it's the hotels and things where they would have conferences, that's less in use. Very important to see this and the chain reaction. So the reason I mention this as an investor, and maybe in your own job, in your own career, think about this. Is my business or what I'm involved in going to be affected by the trends that are likely not to change? You have to be honest with yourself and you have to answer this question. If the answer is no, well then, okay, so now I'm gonna double down on what I'm doing. If the answer is yes, it could be, but maybe not today, but maybe sometime soon, we gotta start retooling, we gotta start training, and we gotta look at what is most beneficial to us. Don't sit idle on this. Please don't. It's very important, okay, because it's gonna hurt us all. Naples businesses are feeling the impact of fewer visitors. So this is just one example. It could flip around in a month from now in this particular example, but I'm just showing you some places doing very well. Billionaires making more money than ever. Some companies are doing extremely well. Other, LVMH, Louis Vuitton, doing better than ever. Okay, massive, massive growth. And then you look at this. Okay, one area of one city not doing so good. Other companies not doing so good. Depends on where you want to look. Okay, so that's sort of the situation today. I want you to know what's happening with the banking crisis because it really explains a lot when we take a look at the details. And right up front in that video, I show you what's happening. I introduce you with that information. It's right here on the screen. I'll see you there.